Hello everybody, it's me, it's Dreamer. I hope you're doing well today. Now, you may be thinking, Dreamer, this is a few days too late. I apologize, I've been mega busy, but I still wanted to put this out there. It's Mythic Charms, and specifically Mythic Charms for AFK Stages. So I'm going to have it as like a let's talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the 6 classes. Now on the screen, you'll see that I've picked 3 heroes from each class. This is just so that I had like a tidy graphic. There are more heroes within some of these classes, and you'll see as the video kind of progresses what I mean by that. Now, like I said, we've already had a few days of Dura's Trial and the ability to unlock and effectively craft the Mythic Charms. There have been some fairly obvious picks, like your Blast Saida or your Insight Baelren. However, there are some more complicated or difficult ones to pick, and you, similar to maybe me and other players, are holding on to your Charm Dust and being like, okay, maybe I won't craft straight away, maybe I'll wait for a second opinion or just some additional thoughts. And that's what this is. This is me giving you my thoughts on what charms each of these heroes should have. And I'll kind of hopefully go into a little bit more detail as to why I think it. And then if you have a differing opinion, if you think that, hey, actually I think you're wrong, I think that they should have this charm instead, tell me, let me know. But without further ado, let's jump in. Normally, I would go by infographic order, which means logically I'd go with Rogue first, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go to the supports first, and it's just going to give you an idea as the structure of this video. So on the screen, you'll see 3 larger icons and 4 smaller icons. The 3 larger ones are our main heroes. So in this case, it's Valara, Hugin, and Twins. The 4 smaller ones are our honorable mentions, and they are Rowan, Coco, Smokey, and Pandora. Now, I'm going to talk about the 3 main ones, and then I will come on to the honorable mentions, and then I'm going to conclude with the order that I personally would build these in. So the first one, and taking you in-game, is Valara, and you can see straight away that I personally have built the sorcery charms. There are 2 charm sets that Valara can consider building. The first one is sorcery, and the second one is blast charms. So these bad boys. Personally, looking at data, sorcery charms have been better historically for AFK stages, but we have seen in the past blast be used in AFK stages as well. Meaning, down the road, you will likely want to also build blast charms, but for now, I would recommend that you build sorcery. Okay. The next hero on the list is Hugin. Hugin, unfortunately, is a confusing hero. 95% of the time, you'll want to use Mystic Charms, but there are AFK stages where you will need, and it's not a want, it's you'll need Swift or Blast. And we saw this in Season 4. There were certain stages where on day 1 you could only do them with Swift Charms. Therefore, I would start, similar to Valara, I would start with the most used set, which in this case is Mystic, and then look to craft some additional sets down the road.
1, 2.
So the next hero to look at
That's wrong.
are Elijah and Lila, aka the twins. Really simple, it's sorcery charms. There's not much that needs to be spoken about here. In AFK stages, these will win out 99.9% of the time. Onto the honorable mentions, however, and I'm only going to go into depth for one of them. I'm not going to talk about all 4, I'm sorry. I want to try and keep this video at least somewhat short. I've got 6 classes to get through. Now, the reason why I'm picking Rowan out of the 4, so the 4, if you recall, were Rowan, Coco, Smokey, and Pandora, is because Rowan is seeing more use than the other 3. Like, I think you could effectively count how many times you've seen these other 3 heroes, and it would still get nowhere near to the amount of times that we have seen Rowan in this season so far. And that's because Rowan's charm bonus is incredible this season. If you don't know what it is, it increases the ranged defense of effectively the hero or ally placed 1 tile in front of him. For Rowan, I personally would build either the Wizard Charms or the Cheetah Charms. I think Wizard just wins out every day of the week, but I have seen some people consider Cheetah. For me personally, when I get enough dust in surplus, I will build Wizard, just as like a, what am I doing? What's my plan? So, I promised you an ordering. The order, honestly, is what I've got on screen. So, I've got it in order of Valara, Hugin, Twins, and then it flows into Rowan, and then I think it goes like Coco, Smokey, Pandora. Honestly, I would do that. Now, obviously, there are other heroes that you may want to build for other game modes, or potentially even other sets within these heroes for those game modes. But I would build Sorcery Valara, I would build Hugin Mystic, I would build Sorcery Twins, and I would build Wizard Rowan as my first 4. Now, knowing all of this, we're going to move to the Rogue class, and we're going to do the same thing again. Cool. So come with me on the journey. Okay, so let's delve in. The first class that we're going to look at is Rogue, and the 3 heroes are going to be Saida, Faramore, and Shadewing, but there is an honorable mention for a 4th, which is Iron. So, looking in game, I've already crafted Blast Charms for Saida. I'm not going to go into much more detail. Blast Charms are the best for her, at least under current thinking and current logic. Craft Blast Charms if you haven't already for Saida. That is a lock-in. Now, the next hero, which is Faramore, you'll see in-game that I haven't crafted Faramore Charms yet. The reason is, last season, we actually crafted and used Ruthless Charms, Blast Charms, Arcane Charms, and even Mystic Charms. All 4 sets were used for different types of AFK stages. Now, the main charm that was used was Ruthless. It's very likely that this will be the same situation again. However, I'm just waiting. At the moment, we haven't come across a gatekeeping stage where Faramore's damage is the issue. If I did, I would highly likely craft Ruthless based on my current thinking and looking back to Season 4. So right now, I would say Ruthless, followed by Arcane, followed by Mystic, followed by Blast. That's my kind of top 4. But I would also consider some patience here. I would just say maybe have some patience. Now the last one of the main 3 was Shadewing. Now Shadewing has emerged as a absolute damage beast, is all I can put it as, in AFK stages. He also has 3 sets that I could see being utilized. Now the game recommends Arcane, but both Sorcery and also Destructive Charms look really, really appetizing for this hero's toolkit. My personal opinion is I would probably go for either Sorcery or Arcane. Like if you said you have to make a decision now, your life depends on it, I would highly likely go for Sorcery Charms, but I think that you would be fine with Arcane as well. So I would pick between one of those. And considering that you can buy his charms from the store, it's obviously sold out for me because I've already done it. It may be that you want to craft, for example, I've got 1 sorcery. It may be that you want to craft the additional 2 just to save on the resource initially so that you can craft more sets or more complete sets for other rogues. So just keep that in mind. Now, the 4th hero, which is just an honorable mention, he's always an honorable mention because he's utilized in a lot of AFK stages, is Iron. Now, last season, Iron, similar to Faramore, had 3 different charm sets that were used in different AFK stages, and they were Cheetah, Energy, and Mystic. My personal opinion here would be go for Mythic Charms, but I could really see any of the 3 of these being worthwhile, but my personal opinion would be Mythic Charms. Right, to conclude, the order would be Saida, Faramore, Shadewing, Iron. Saida is Blast Charms, duh. Faramore is most likely Ruthless Charms, Shadewing is most likely Sorcery Charms, and Iron is most likely Mystic Charms. Saida is a lock-in. The other 3, I think if you have a different opinion to me, just go for it. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, and you're going to eventually have enough surplus dust to rectify any mistakes. Okay. So, warriors. Now, there ain't many. There's 3. At least I'm keeping it to 3. There is Baelren, there is Brutus, and there is Xandrock. You could say, oh, Dreamer, maybe there's Laios or Perseus, but I don't care about those heroes. So we're just going to focus on these 3. Now, the nice thing is, I can say across the board, and I'll take you in game, I could say this across the board, that all 3 of these heroes are most likely a lock for Insight Charms. There's only one that could consider something different. So Baelren is Insight, locked. Brutus, I believe, is Insight, locked. The 3rd hero, which is Xandrock, is a little bit different. He has a separate option, which is Cheetah. So Cheetah and Insight are very close to one another. I think, and if I had to look back at some historical footage, in Season 4 I used Cheetah Charms instead of Insight. But I know that there were clears where you had to use Insight. So similar to the Faramores, the Irons that we talked about earlier, it will be likely that you need to build both sets for the future. But I would start with either Insight or Cheetah, depending on your own personal preference. For me, I might go Cheetah this time. But yeah, that's just me. Warriors is that simple, ladies and gentlemen. So we can go straight to the Rangers. Before I move on, if it wasn't obvious, it's Baelren first. Then Brutus, then Xandrock. But Baelren is your priority. Okay, cool. Now we can move on. The Rangers. The Pew-Pewers. The Zap-Zappers. What's the situation here? What's the scores on the doors? Once again, only really 3 heroes that we need to talk about. It's Kulu, it's Zany, and it's Byron. Now, if you don't have Saida or Baelren, it's highly likely that you're using either Zany or Byron as your main damage dealer or one of your damage dealers. Therefore, this is probably quite important. Now, I'm not in that situation, but these are my considerations or my picks, and I'll take you in game again. So we'll start with Zany. Now, Zany has 2 considerations. The first one, which is used in, I think, any PvE, so that's Dream Realm, Ravage Realm type content, is normally Gale Charms. But there are situations where I could see Sorcery Charms being good for her. So once again, I would probably craft which you personally prefer. I would go with Gale. The game recommends Gale, which is kind of nice of it. I think Gale would win out more times than it wouldn't. So go with Gale. That's my unconfident opinion on Zany. Now, the next 2 are even more confusing. So Kulu is like an Iron Faramore type hero. She has, and I looked at historical footage for this. I've cleared AFK stages in Season 4 with Sorcery Charms, with Arcane Charms, and with Acute Charms. I think Acute is the best for her, personally. However, looking at the data that I have, we used Sorcery more than Acute. So take that what you will. I think that between the 3 of these, once again, you can pick your poison. You can just say, I'm more of a fan of haste. Like, I want her to get her bomb bounce off more. I'll go with acute. Or you could say, I want stronger skill. There's a ton of different ways of approaching her. All three kind of do the same thing, but they just do it in a different way. If I had to pick one, I'd pick acute. But that's because I fell in love with acute charms last season on Kulu, even if they weren't theoretically the best ones on paper. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I think if you want to go by data, if you're a data-driven individual, you would pick sorcery charms. Okay, the last one is Byron. Byron has seen a sharp rise in usage because of his interaction with Snow Stomper. Now, the game recommends Ruthless Charms. I'm not sure what Dreamer recommends. So I recall, and once again, I looked at historical footage, that I used Arcane Charms historically. So Arcane Charms to me are extremely good for Byron. But there was an individual today on Discord, and shout out to you, I don't remember your name, who was talking about the interaction with Snow Stomper and how the attack speed would benefit you because effectively you'd be proccing Snowman more. And it would make it so that Ruthless Charms, were a larger consideration. I don't disagree with that, but I think I would still go with Arcane. But I think if you were all in on the Stompy interaction, you could go with Ruthless. Now, if I recall correctly, and we're going to do some live fact checking here, we're not going to edit this out. If I recall correctly, the Spirit Marked hero can throw 5 snowballs within 1 second. So it is capped. However, is Byron going to be able to throw 5 snowballs within 1 second? I don't know. So, to me, maybe Ruthless Charms could be good. Yeah, go for it. I think Ruthless Charms could be good. Yeah. If you're going to really, really take advantage of Snow Stomper, go for Ruthless Charms. Why not? Wrapping up the Ranger class. There aren't many options, as we've kind of gone over. You've got Zany, Kulu, and Byron. Now, the ordering of how you pick and prioritize these three is going to be very individual to you and your account. For me personally, I haven't crafted a Mythic Ranger charm yet. I am waiting till I come to an AFK stage that needs one of these three. However, if you don't own Saida and you don't own Baelren and Byron or Zany are your main damage dealer, I would encourage you to prioritize those two heroes, right? And whichever of those two that you use the most, which is most likely Byron, I would pick him to craft first. In terms of the charms, I believe Zany, to me at least, was just Gale. For Kulu, there were 3 options, and for Byron, there were 2. I think just go for Ruthless, as we were just talking about for Byron. Have fun. Yeah, go for it. Maximize Snow Stomper while you've still got him. Cool. For Kulu, I personally would go for Acute, but I think the most sensible option is Sorcery. That's my take on that. Now, we're going to go to the tanky lads. The tanky boys. So, we have 3 and an honourable mention. The 3, in case you're a audio listener, not a visual one, are Theodore, Ulmus, aka Treeman, and Foresto. And then the honourable mention that I've gone for is Callan, because of his recent rise to fame due to his enhanced force. So, taking you in-game, Theodore is the most lock hero that there is, at least in my opinion, and it's Insight. I say that, he might not actually be that high of a lock, because I remember Focus and Vigorous being used last season on certain AFK stages. So we might see it where he needs to, and I'm just going to use the situation that was used in Season 4, he needs to tank a certain amount of damage initially to be able to live, obviously, and for us to complete the AFK stage. And to do that, he would need Focus Charms or Vigorous Charms. Yeah, Focus or Vigorous. I swear this was Sturdy. I'm probably wrong on that. Doesn't matter. Focus. Quite literally, Dreamer. Focus. Focus Charms or Vigorous Charms I could see being a consideration down the line. The next two heroes have kind of seen a drop-off in popularity. So I am not encouraging you to craft these straight away. I would more likely hold your tank essence. And as you can see in-game, I've even crafted Damon, who isn't kind of like a massive AFK stage hero, unless you're a low deficit player. The other two heroes, like I said, were Tree and Foresto. Now, Tree's charms, just to take us back on track, I would pick Arcane Charms for him. Attack skill power, that's where we've gone in previous seasons and where I'd go again. Now, Foresto, obviously for Dream Realm, normally we pick Sorcery Charms. And if that's what you've done, I don't think that that's a bad decision. Now, once again, the nuance of Foresto and AFK stages is he's most of the time used now for his damage reduction and his energy gain benefit that he can give to two heroes. For that reason, his charms don't tend to matter, but if you need him to live and to tank a hit, for example, then Sturdy, there's Sturdy, and Bear Charms are more often or not the ones that you want to pick. Me personally, I think in previous seasons I've always gone with Bear, so I would go with Bear again. But I think the game recommends Sturdy. I think you'd be fine going with Sturdy as well if you wanted to go with what was recommended. Right, summarizing tank before I move on to the Mage. There isn't really a massive need for anything other than Theodore. So Theodore is your first build, and he is Insight Charms, as we mentioned earlier. You've then got Ulmus, Foresto, and Callan. I don't think any of those three take any format of priority. So yeah, I would just do that. I would build Theodore Insight, and then I would just sit on my hands and wait. Okay, let's go to the mages. Lastly, the mages. So you'll notice that I've cheekily included an upcoming hero, and I'll come on to her in a bit. In reality, right now, in current days, there are only really one or two heroes that you would want to consider building. Now, one of them is a completely must-have, and it's Mihira, and taking you in-game, I've already got her loaded. Now, the charms that you want to build for her are Mystic, but I'm gonna give you an AFK stage tip or trick. Yes. You're not gonna have to wait for a video on her, I'm gonna give it to you here and now. Sometimes you will need to break this set. So you'll want to have a spare Mythic Charm, which you'll most likely have if you bought the charms from the store. So once again, the Charm Merchant, you can buy the Mythic Mihira Charm set. It's highly unlikely you'll get a full set of Mystic. If you do, I recommend just crafting an Arcane Charm so that you can swap in and out so that you can break the set. You'll be going, why would I want to break the set? You've just told me that this set is incredible, it lengthens the charm duration, it shortens the cooldowns. It is incredible. However, the charm duration, for one reason or another, can sometimes cause the Theodore, Faramore, Mihira kind of crowd control comp to not work. So what you'll want to do, and you'll see this in the formations and in the replays. So once again, as you load into an AFK stage, that button in the bottom left-hand corner, you can click it and you can see the charms that are being used by each hero from that player. And if you notice that Mihira doesn't have a full charm set on, let's say she has rainbow charms. So once again, what does that look like? So if I take this off, I'll be able to show you. So as you can see here, Shamira has a full charm set, whereas Mihira doesn't. So you get that additional little visual effect compared to when it doesn't have it. If you see this, but you have a full set equipped, so you have your full Mystic set equipped, take one of your charms off, like I just showed you, and put a different Mythic Charm on. And you'll find it so much easier to replicate, because now you are playing in the same, effectively, ball field, ballpark, whatever the saying is, as the other person. Okay. Now, to mention the other mage heroes, I can quickly go through these. The first one is Lucy. Lucy is still a popular hero. She is still used. I would recommend Swift Charms. I have seen other people use Mystic. We even saw some Vigorous Lucys last season. I personally will build Swift Charm. I think that's the one that I will go for. Now, the other two heroes to mention, but I have seen nothing of them, is Siren and Tassie. For Tassie, we know that Blast Charms are the best, but I don't know if you need to go out and spend the Mythic Charm Essence today, because she's just not used. And similar, Siren, I think, to me, it's Mystic Charms. You could pick Destructive, but I would pick Mystic. And we've not seen him be used. So once again, you don't need to go rushing out there. Now, I mentioned, and taking you back to the infographic, there is a new hero coming up, which is Gala. She is a mage. I would highly recommend that you save, even though that you're going to be able to buy her charm set from the vendor, I would highly recommend you save some of your mage essence to effectively be able to build a few charm sets on day one. The reason being is we won't know what's best for her, and it could be that we have bad information on day one. For example, we could say, similar to like a Faramore, that arcane charms are best, when in reality ruthless charms were. So then we have to spend additional dust to build the extra set. If that's the case, you're going to want to have a good amount stockpiled. And you will. By the time we get to, it's in 7 days time. In 7 days time, you should have 2 additional cycles of mage dust. So you should have plenty, but I'm just giving you the warning. Concluding our final class, which was the Mage, Mihira comes first with her Mystic Charms. You then have Lucy, who could be Mystic or Swift. You've then got Siren and Tassie. I put Siren as like a main hero, but honestly, he could be and probably should be like an honorable mention. Outside of Mihira, and even Lucy isn't needed. I would do what I have kind of suggested for some of these other classes, which is just sit on your hands and wait. I would really encourage you to hold as much mage essence, like the mythic essence, as possible, because Gala might need a few charm sets for different game modes, and you'll want to craft them day one, because she looks like she's going to be extremely powerful. And yeah, that is everything. So I shall take you to the summary. Alright team, so that is the charms that I would recommend for the AFK stage heroes. Now I said that I would summarize, but in reality I think I've already done that at the end of every single one of these little segments, so I'm just going to use this to say thank you. Thank you so much for your support and your continued support. Obviously, if you have any questions, let me know. If you have differing thoughts, opinions, feedback, whatever it might be, put it in the comments. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear it. And yeah, maybe one of the other questions that I've got for you, just because I'm interested, I want to take like a heartbeat or a pulse check, I should say. How are you finding Phase 3? Are you enjoying Phase 3? AFK Stages fun? If, you know, let's say your response is, oh, Dreamer, I hate Phase 3. Tell me why. Let me know why. Is it AFK Stages? Is it something else? I've seen a lot of people talk very badly about Age of Calamity. I'll be completely honest. I've been away for work and I have not seen the event at all. I've like hit the boss. I'm not going to spoil anything. I've hit the boss a few times and I've run a few of the Blight events, but that's literally it. Like, I played Sonic with some crystals and I didn't really get what I was doing, but yeah, not sure about that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much again, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye!